Yo guys, and welcome back towards this new video here on the channel. And on today's video I will be going over Bitcoin, and we'll be going over the subject: is Bitcoin right now trading in a bear market? Since equities are coming down massively, and since the Federal Reserve is of course using a very aggressive strategy, people do think the markets are going to come down very hard. So on today's video I will be going over this subject. So does this sound interesting for you? Don't forget to right away slap up that like button, and let's dive right away into towards the content. So first of all, let me talk about Bitcoin on the daily time frame before really going in towards my bear market analysis, of course. So what we can see essentially on Bitcoin on that daily time frame is that Bitcoin is forming some kind of this daily horizontal support, and so far we broke the daily uptrend, but we're still holding on towards this daily volume support. Do really know that volume is very important to recognize on Bitcoin, because due to this high amount of volume that is getting traded between the 38 and 39,000 US dollars, I do expect to see this level somewhat create a very strong bounce on Bitcoin. So right now, since this is the highest volume range of this whole range we have been trading in, I personally still think there's a very high likelihood that Bitcoin could still potentially hold on towards this level. So let me then right away talk about some other things, because equities are really falling very hard. The S&P 500 is falling very hard here, and of course what we do know is that the dollar index is rising very quickly. The dollar index is right now really trading at a high range, but yeah, we are expecting that we are going to get rejected from this downward sloping trend line on the DXY here. But there could be also a possibility that the DXY is just going to be breaking further on and really push up higher and really potentially bring Bitcoin down even more. A thing that we really do need to know here is, if we're going to zoom out towards the monthly time frame, is that the DXY has been basically always traded in a downtrend. It has always come down with lower highs from the larger time frames. So really, there is a very high possibility that the dollar index eventually is going to come down again. But do also reckon that on the monthly time frame, the dollar index is right now creating some kind of a W structure, what could be extremely bullish. And for me, I will be definitely start to get very scared for the dollar index if we do break about that above that $102 region. As soon as we do break above this region, I personally think we should start to get a little bit more cautious, and things can start to be moving up very quickly again. Also do know and do reckon we are almost trading back at overbought territory, and historically speaking, always once the DXY is overbought, it has been not necessarily the best amount of times to hold those dollars. And of course, it has been always a good time for accumulating equities and accumulating assets in that case. So yeah, right now, the dollar index is almost trading at that overbought monthly territory, what is pretty interesting to see. Also on the weekly time frame, we're starting to get overbought again here on the RSI, really also shaping up a scenario where we could be, of course, potentially still come down here together with this downward sloping resistance line that we are currently creating on this market. There's definitely a possibility that we're going to see a massive market rejection, and do know that every single time we've been trading basically in these higher ranges for the dollar index, Bitcoin has always started its bull markets and its bull runs here. But if it's really going to move further up here, what some people are expecting, the dollar index is, the S&P 500 is probably going to fall even further. And hold on tight here. Yes, I'm not talking about Bitcoin right now, that we do know, of course, many people in the space are saying if the S&P 500 moves down here, Bitcoin moves with it, and usually more faster. And if the Bitcoin market moves up here, if the S&P 500 moves up here, Bitcoin usually also accelerates even faster. So basically, these assets are highly correlated with each other. What we can see on the S&P 500 is that we're currently, of course, falling down pretty massively, right? And since the dollar index is increasing, the S&P 500 is getting a little bit of a harder time here. And I personally think that we are looking to some kind of a dead cat bounce here, because we're not really holding on towards those support levels, and we had a major free fall towards the downside. And even today on the pre-market, we're already starting to be falling even further on towards that downside target. So it is actually not showing any strength here, and I wouldn't be surprised, to be very honest, that we're going to come down even further, because we do know the Federal Reserve is rating up those hikes here and is making everyone afraid. But the thing that I do know as well is that the fear has never been so high across this market, and especially on Bitcoin as well, we're seeing a high amount of fear. If I read through my comments, if I read through my Twitter page, I do see so many negativity and so many bears across over there. where I don't really think that that is the smartest thing to do here. So if I'm also going to look at the M2 money supply, we can still see, yeah, the Federal Reserve is maybe really, yeah, bringing up the interest rates here. But what we do know is that there is still a high amount and a high frequent amount of money printing going around here. There's still getting more money injected towards the economy to stimulate the economy. And that is eventually has to go and pay its price, of course. What we can see is that this parabolica is not ending yet here, and as long as they're not going to stop printing money, the inflation is probably not going to come down. And also do know, if they're only going to hike the rates with 0.5 basis points, it is not going to really bring down inflation above 13%, because the CPI is above 10% here month over month. And if you're going to only rate the hikes with 0.5%, you're not really going to have a huge effect here. So I don't really know why there are so many people afraid right now that the market is going to collapse so hard, since the Fed is now using a very aggressive strategy, of course. Then at the same time here, really looking at the S&P 500, and people are saying the S&P 500 is going to come down and drag Bitcoin with it. We do know that if we're going to compare Bitcoin towards the S&P 500, we've been basically always traded, and of course, an uptrend for the last 13 years. Bitcoin has been always gaining more strength against the S&P 500. And what we can see over the last weeks here, over the last basically 15 months here, is that Bitcoin, of course, first of all, in this rally, created a new high and continuously is forming those higher highs on the weekly time frame. And of course, also week after week, we are forming these higher lows as well. So Bitcoin is really taking out more strength out of that S&P 500, really showcasing us Bitcoin is acting as a risk off asset, where of course a lot of people see the high volatility across Bitcoin. People think, oh, Bitcoin moved up towards 69k, come down to 30k, this is something I want to be staying away from. But actually, once we do see a recession, what probably is going to come in the coming 2 years in the economy, right? There is going to become a recession. Are stocks going to decrease? We don't exactly know, because if Bitcoin is going to fall, if stocks going to fall, should I hold my money in fiat then? I don't think that's the smartest choice, because also we're seeing a high amount of inflation over there. So there are going to be very rich individuals going to look for an asset to really store their value. And if we're going to look for a place to store your value, you're going to look at something that is outperforming and holding up better than the stock market, and that is really going to be bringing in the big capital. And that is really what Bitcoin is right now doing. It's really forming these consistent higher lows, and it's really forming some kind of a very huge pennant here on the weekly time frame, right? And it's of course a matter of weeks, not a matter of hours. Bitcoin is eventually going to be probably break out higher. Bitcoin is still a very young asset, and it still has a lot of potential to grow towards the upside. So I'm personally still extremely bullish about Bitcoin if we're really going to compare it towards these equities. So I don't really think there's a very big reason to be starting to be panicking over here. Then also really talking about Bitcoin, and if it's really in a bear market, I really quickly want to be saying something out there to you guys out there. First of all, we look at the volume. Of course, the volume is coming down over the recent days pretty heavily. There's less volume getting traded in the market. People are really thinking, oh, Bitcoin is dead, it's doomed, it's over. But if we're right now going to look at what the volume is currently doing in this market, it is really starting to get pretty interesting, of course. So here you can see a chart with all limit orders set up on the market. You can see on the top side the red limit orders that are the sell orders, of course, and on the lower side you can see the green orders. Those are of course the buy orders for Bitcoin. And what you can really see is that there's a huge wall on 30k. There's a huge wall on 38k as well. A lot of Bitcoins getting set up over there to really to really buy in towards the market. And there's basically a high frequent amount of people that are really willing to step in towards this market. And if we're really going to look towards the upside, we cannot really see a lot of resistance. There's not a lot of people that are looking to sell their Bitcoin on this higher side, of course. Basically, if we break above the 39k and we get some more follow through, we can easily back trade around back towards that 48,000 US dollars as next major resistance target, since there's not a lot of limit orders set up to really bring us down along the way up, of course. So do also know there is not a huge amount of people really looking to sell off their Bitcoin, where there are still a lot of people that are willing to scoop on those cheaper prices for Bitcoin, right? So people really think the market always comes down here on these ranges where the market is looking the most bearish, but usually once the market is looking the most bearish, we tend to come up again here, because those are usually the places where the market is looking the best here, because no one is expecting it, and do the unexpected to make profits in crypto. Also, if I can get and find this tool real quickly here, and basically if we can eliminate, and I think it is over here, this tool, I'm quickly searching it up here. No, it is not over here, excuse me. But basically, if we're going to look back at this market, and if you're going to really eliminate that right side movement towards the upside, do you really think this market is looking good? No, I don't think the market is looking good. It was looking pretty bearish over here. We were forming these lower lows. We were really losing strength. We were losing volume in the market. People were getting less interested, and that is why we moved up here. And once again, we're getting the same feeling over here. I'm still currently in a long position on Bitcoin, and I am accumulating more and more in towards this long as the market comes further down here. I'm accumulating further in towards this position, since I am willing to be building up a huge position on the market right here, since I do think that working against the public opinion is going to be a very strong decision. And yes, I totally agree. The dollar index is showing a lot of strength. Yes, I totally agree. The S&P 500 is looking worse. But if money is going to flow out on an asset, it's always going to flow towards another place. And I personally really think that place is going to be Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is just looking very strong against that S&P 500. Bitcoin is just looking very strong against the stock market, and there is a high amount of growth against the stock market as well. And Bitcoin is going to be that asset that is going to really protect those investors for losing all their wealth, because that is where the big money is going to be looking for in the coming weeks, in the coming months, once this market is probably going to show us even more uncertainty. Also, on-chain seeing, if you're looking to on-chain data, we can really argue about that we are right now seeing a high amount of long-term holders entering the market. People that already entered the market in the beginning of 2021 are really starting to become, of course, long-term holders, and that is a very good thing to have here. And of course, look at this chart, we can clearly see, and let me set it up on the bar here, that there is a high amount of growth in 1+ year older holders. And I personally really expect to see these metrics even climb further on here, because as long as the market is going down here, it is going to be less likely that these people are really going to sell off here, because a long-term holder is not likely to sell off here. The longer you're going to hold your Bitcoin, the more cycles you went through, the more panic you went through, and the less likely it is that you're going to actually sell off those Bitcoins. So yeah, pretty interesting to know. Guys, this was a little bit of a different video. Let me know if you do enjoy this content, and of course, by smashing up the like button, I can already see about how you guys like this kind of content, where I go a little bit more in depth about research I do on this market. So it will be highly appreciated if you do subscribe to the channel, if you do like the video as well, and of course if you're interested in trading and of course accumulating Bitcoin, check out Bybit in the link description, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.